Good morning. I am Anandakumar, Faculty of English and Soft Skills Trainer, working in St. Peter's Engineering College, Hyderabad. Once again, I welcome you all to my video lecture. And today our topic is critical reading. Before going to see this topic elaborately, we must know the importance of reading first. So, reading takes third position in LSRW. Reading is an art. Reading is a fundamental skill for inculcating knowledge in a required field and can enhance or enrich the vocabulary content, and also predicts the language and structure of writing, and also evaluates the concept of writer's work along with the positive moments for comprehending through predictions. Now it is time for knowing what is called reading. The process of interpreting written language, which one can obtain pleasure or extract specific information and respond intelligently by improving from his knowledge. That is the exact definition of reading. Now let's see what is called critical reading. A critical reading means engaging in what you read by asking yourself questions such as what is the author trying to convey or say, or what is the main argument being presented. In this way, the questions will be arised to know the gist of the paragraph or the content or the message. And critical reading means being able to reflect on what a text says, what it describes, and what it means by scrutinizing the style and structure of writing, the language used, as well as the content. Critical reading involves presenting an argument that evaluates and analyzes what you have read. Being critical, therefore, in an academic sense, means advancing your understanding, not dismissing or closing off learning. Next, we move to the another slide, that is the reading equation. It is like mathematical term, a plus b whole squared, a squared plus b squared plus 2ab. Likewise, some equation is applicable for reading strategy or reading skill, that is prior knowledge plus predictions equal to comprehension. When we read, we do not grasp each and every word on the page for its individual meaning. We process text in chunks and also use other tricks to help us make meaning out of so many individual words in a text. First, we bring the prior knowledge to everything we read, whether we are aware of it or not. Title of text, author's name, and the topic of the piece all trigger prior knowledge in us. With prior knowledge, we make predictions or guesses about how what we are reading relates to our prior experience. So, prior knowledge, which is always required to enhance our reading, sometimes it is very useful in critical reading. So, what we know already, that will be focusing the clear picture while reading a particular text or any article or any publication or journal. So the prior knowledge which is always required, and also prediction. So if you have the prior knowledge, then you can able to predict predict the gist of the message or the paragraph. Guess the paragraph, the meaning, contextual meaning of the paragraph clearly. Then the comprehension. So comprehension in the sense we can understand thoroughly if we have the prior knowledge and predictions. The next we move to critical reader should reflect on. So it should be reflected on what the text says, what the text describes, interpretation of the text. We go with the first one, what the text says. After critically reading a piece, you should be able to take notes, paraphrasing in your own words, the keynotes or points. So that should be followed what the text says while reading the text. The next one is what the text describes. You should be confident that you have to understand the text sufficiently to be able to use your own examples, compare and contrast with other writing on the subject in hand. So that is the term, or the description of the particular text. Then interpretation of text. It means you should be able to fully analyze the text and state a meaning for the text as a whole. So that is, the interpretation of the text itself. Then next we move to another slide, that is developing a reading strategy. So when we are in formal learning situation, be required to read and critically think about a lot of information from different sources. You will not only learn to read critically but also efficiently. The first step is efficient reading. The second step is speed reading. In efficient reading, you cannot read all of the books on a recommended reading list. You need to select, you need to select the best text for you. To start with, you need to know what you are looking for. You can then examine the content page or the index of a book or a journal to predict whether a chapter or article is worth proceeding further or not. So that will be followed in the efficient reading. The first strategy. Then the second strategy, speed read. Speed read is also often referred to as skimming or scanning. If you identify once a relevant piece of text, like a chapter in a book, you should scan the first few sentences of each paragraph and gain an overall impression of subject areas it covers. Scanning, you identify the chapters most relevant to you and ignore the rest. In speed reading, the utmost aim is understanding completely of the arguments or the topics raised in the text. So the next slide is steps to be a critical reader. Steps to be a critical reader. The first point is prepare to become a part of the writer's audience. Prepare to read with an open mind. Consider the title, read slowly, use the dictionary and other appropriate reference works, make notes, keep a reading journal. So here the first point is prepare to become part of the writer's audience. In this, after all, authors design the text for specific audience, and becoming a member of the target audience makes it easier to get at author's purpose. Learn about the author, history of author, and the text. The author's anticipated audience read introduction and notes. So this is about the first point. Then the second one is prepare to read with an open mind. In this segment, critical readers seek knowledge. They do not rewrite a work to suit their own personalities. Your task as an enlightened critical reader is to read what is on the page, giving the writer a fair choice to develop, fair chance to develop ideas, and allowing yourself to reflect thoughtfully, objectively on the text. Then the next one is consider the title. So, in this segment, it seems an obvious, but the title may provide clues to the writer's attitude, goals, and personal viewpoint or approach. So, consider the title. So, it offers such things. So, what I given you just before. Then the next one is read slowly. It is suggested to reader, it is suggested the reader to read slowly because it is a factor in a close reading. So once if you start to read the passage slowly, then you come to the the main or the central idea of the paragraph clearly. It is known as close reading. By slowing down, you will make more connections with the within the text. So once if you read it slowly, then you'll be getting a lot of connections. The last word of the each paragraph, which will be considered like the first word of the next paragraph. So you will be getting some the continuous process which will be obtained while reading. Then the next one is use the dictionary and other appropriate reference works. So dictionary and other appropriate reference works, which is a mandatory one. The important step to be a critical reader. If there is a word in the text that is not clear or difficult to define in context, look it up. Every word is important, and if part of the text is trick with the technical term, it is doubly important to know how the author is using them. So, using dictionaries in order to understand or grasp the way of writing or the mentality or the attitude of the writers, the author and his work. So for that, you must know the exact meaning or the context of the complete text. So for that, it is advisable to use the dictionary and other appropriate reference works for getting the clear picture of the particular text or the work. So everything which is based on the author, that should be reflected on his writing, in the particular work. The next one is make notes. It is taking a prominent work in reading or critical reading. If you take notes or write down notes, will support the reader to remind or recollect the ideas or theme of the paragraph. Jot down marginal notes, underline and highlight. Write down ideas in the notebook. Do whatever works for your own personal taste. So, note for yourself the main ideas, the thesis, and the author's main points to support the theory and all. Writing while reading aids your memory in many ways, especially by making a link that is unclear in the text concrete in your own writing. So that is the purpose of we people are taking make notes. Then the last point of the slide is keep a reading journal. So, in addition to note taking or note making, it is often helpful to regularly record your responses and thoughts in a more permanent places, that is yours to consult. So, once if you start, to read any journal, you come to know the original response and thoughts of the author. Then it is very useful or for the betterment of the reader. In forthcoming activities, or it tells about the clear ideas about the particular work. So by developing a habit of reading, and writing in conjunction, both skills will improve. I mean, the reading and writing, that will be enhanced always if you follow, I mean, these steps in reading. Then next, we come to the another slide. That is here just giving you the acronym like SQ3R. S means survey, uh, Q means question, and first R means read, second R represents recall, and the final R is review. So SQ3R is well-known strategy for reading. SQ3R can be applied to a whole range of reading purposes, as it is flexible and yes, and takes into account the need to change reading speeds. So as I told you that SQ3R is an acronym and stands for survey, question, read, recall, and review. So while seeing the first one, survey, this relates to speed reading, scanning and skimming the text. At this initial stage, you will be attempting to gain the general gist of the material in questions. So that is the purpose of doing a survey. Then the next one is question. So here the question is very important one. Before you begin to read, you have a question or set of questions that will guide you. Why am I reading this? That is very important. That is the main objective of reading also. So when you have a purpose to your reading, you want to learn and retain certain information. Any questions? If you feel changes, reading from a passive to an active. It is very important. For example, what do I already know about this subject? How does this chapter relate to the assignment questions? How can I relate what I read to my own experiences? So these questions are very important in order to know, or that is the main objective of your reading. Whatever the reading, either skimming process or scanning process, be a critical reader. You just follow the I mean objective in order to grasp all information. I mean the general gist of the text. So the next one is the first R. As I told you that the first R is read. You will be ready for the main activity of reading. It involves careful consideration of the meaning of what the author is trying to convey, and involves being critical as well as active. So that is, I mean, the main thing of following the first R. I mean, reading. The second R, as I told you, that recall. So, regardless of how interesting an article or chapter is, unless you make an effort to recall what you have just read, and possibilities are there to forget some important points. So, in order to avoid the problem that is often we forget, so that should be avoided. For that, you just recall all the important points. So recalling from time to time allows you to focus upon the main points. Recalling gives you the chance to think about what you have read just now in active. So for that purpose, we have to follow strictly, I mean, the recall process. Then the last one of the slide is the final step is to review the material that you have recalled in your notes. Did you understand the main principles of the argument, or did you identify all the main points? Are there any gaps or any confusions? In such a way, the questions will be revised while reviewing the that particular text. So at the time, if you get the answer promptly, then your work has been done without any confusion. So recalled everything you need correctly. Review the text again to make sure and clarify. So that is the, I mean, main purpose of doing the review once, or I mean, when you read any article or any text. Then the last stage of the session, that is the conclusion, I think. Here, I'd like to give you some information. Critical reading relates on an examination of those choices that any and all authors must make when framing presentations of their choices of content, language, and structure. So, readers examine each of three areas of choice and consider their effect on the meaning. So that is, I mean, the main or the important segment of each and every reader when they are reading any article or any journal or any publication or any text. So we have come across a number of information about critical reading, and I think it is very useful to all viewers. So thank you very much.